We'll go back to questions. We'll start with Joe Bettner and then go to Eric Bailey. Joe?
Hey, Lincoln, as you kind of look at the last stretch of your season, Oklahoma State, West Virginia, and Baylor, it seems like three teams that obviously OSU has been atop the rankings, but West Virginia and Baylor getting better. How big is a bye week like this to kind of got maybe mentally or physically get yourselves ready for what seems to be maybe a tougher stretch than what was expected?
Oh, I, I don't know, Joe. I think you just kind of take it as it is. I mean, I think we would be expecting to play well whether we had a bye week or not. I mean, we do have one, so let's take advantage of it. I mean, I think we always expected that this would be a pretty tough stretch. So I don't know that honestly anything that we've seen up to this point this year would maybe change what we thought. I mean, we're playing good teams. You're playing teams have been very successful, really good coaches, a lot of good players. Three returning quarterbacks, the next three games. So, I mean, it's, we've got to take advantage of it. I mean, I think that's the bottom line is we won't be as prepared as we need to for these last three if we don't take advantage of the bye week. So, that's what the schedule is, and we've got to just absolutely make the most of it.
I guess I just asked him, do you expect the league to be this deep this year?
It's hard to say this year. I mean, I think it's been pretty deep in the last several years. So I wouldn't say I'm surprised. I mean, I don't know that there's anybody that you look at and say, didn't think they're going to be very good, and all of a sudden they're really good. I mean, I think everybody's pretty solid. And, I think anytime you have a league that's got as many returning starting quarterbacks as this one did, I mean, I think that's a big starting point. There's a lot of good defenses and good defensive players in this league. So, I mean, it's always tough and always tough to predict too, especially in a year like this.
Thanks, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Bailey and then Ryan Aber.
Hey, Lincoln, your defense ranks in the top 10 for sacks this season. Are we just seeing the expected evolution of Coach Grinch's system? And also, we give a lot of attention to the front seven, but what about the coverages in those instances as well?
Yeah, well, that's a great point. I mean, I think it takes team defense to do it. I mean, obviously the front's got to get home, and anybody else that you're blitzing has to get home at some point. But they certainly haven't all been just there right now. We've had a few of those, but we've certainly had some that have been your more traditional coverage type sacks where we've covered people up. And we had a couple of them the other day that were absolutely that example where we did a nice job covering and really didn't give the quarterback anywhere to go and gave our guys a little bit of extra time. So it takes great team defense to do it. And I would say it's a combination of a lot of things. I think some could be described the evolution of the system, but the players and coaches make the evolution happen. It doesn't kind of back to our point from the beginning of the year is these things don't happen just because, you've got to go make them happen. And I think players have continued to buy into the way we want to play. I think we've been able to add more body types and more pieces that fit this scheme and what we're looking for. And I think we're going to continue to add those and continue to develop the ones we have. So it's been exciting to see the progression and, our expectation that it's going to continue to head in that same direction.
Thanks, Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Aber and then Jason Kersey.
Lincoln, we talked a lot about penalties on your side of things, but y'all are leading the Big 12, and I think OSU is just right behind you in opponents' penalties. How much influence can a team have, you think, on drawing flags on the other side, and what is it about this team specifically that's allowed y'all to do that?
Oh, it's a good question. I mean, I think anytime you can do something to put pressure on an opponent, then you can create opportunities for those penalties, whether that's a team doing a good job with tempo or a team pushing the ball down the field or a team, being very active on a pass rush and, linemen get antsy. I mean, there's some of it's controllable. Some of it's not. I think there's been some penalties that have happened this year because of the pressure we have been able to put on people from both sides. But, and then sometimes it just happens and opponents make mistakes. And I think the key is, put as much pressure as you can, but then, when opponents make mistakes, good teams take advantage of them. And so to me, it's not just the penalty that backs them up into a 1st and 20 situation offensively. It's all right. Now do you take advantage of that and get them off the field and create good field position for the offense, and then vice versa. Offensively, you get them to jump off sides, or you get a big pass interference penalty. Do you capitalize on that and score and actually make a difference in the game? And so, I guess more than maybe trying to cause penalties, we've been more, we've really tried to focus on taking advantage of every opportunity that we get.
Appreciate it, Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
Jason Kersey and then Bob Prisbillo.
Hey, Lincoln, we're seeing COVID cases spike here and nationally. And I know you guys have been really good, at least since week 1, at keeping your guys from being exposed. But do these statewide numbers worry you? And do you guys even have to be more vigilant during an off week?
Yeah, they definitely worry you. I mean, just because it's out there more, and we're trying to, keep our guys sheltered as much as you can. But the more it's out there, the more risk there is. I mean, we can't get around that. As far as the bye week, we've had to be careful about it. We've had to certainly adjust how we go about it. The amount of time that we give our guys away from here, it's definitely changed the traditional schedule. And I know I've mentioned this before, but on top of that, the fact that we can't go out recruiting has those two things have certainly had an effect on it. So the bye week schedules, I don't know if we're doing maybe necessarily more than what we've done in the past, but I would say we've spread it out a little bit more, just so that we're here and we're seeing our guys, we're able to get them tested, and just keeping everybody as close as we possibly can.
Thanks, Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
Bob Prisbillo and then John Hoover.
Lincoln, the team looks different with Perkins and Stevenson back, but what did you learn about Isaiah Thomas and TJ Pledger? How important were they in keeping things afloat while those other guys were out?
Very important. Those guys both got, both earned opportunities, and we had to have guys step up in Ronnie and Ramondre's absence, among other players. And it's just not Ronnie Ramondre, but and those guys were two of the guys that certainly have done the best job of it. They were big for us. Their evolution of going from role guys or guys that had just done a little this, a little that, to being one of the guys. That's a big jump, and they both done a tremendous job. And they've both been warriors for us certainly throughout this year.
Okay, let's go to John Hoover and then James Hale.
Lincoln, each week it seems like we're seeing more and more guys, more and more freshmen get on the field on defense. I'm sure that's partly because of the nature of these last 3 games, but does it also reflect maybe how the defensive coaches just want to see more of those guys where, what the older guys can do, for instance? You want to peek into the future and see what those young guys can do?
I wouldn't say so. I mean, I think you're always curious, but not curious to the point that you're going to, put guys in there, while games are certainly still very competitive. Our deal has been, give us a reason to put you out there. We want to, of course, we want to play guys. We want to have competition. We want to keep people fresh. I mean, we want to do all those things, but you can't just put a guy out there just because you want to. They have to earn it, and they have to show that they're ready. And maybe not ready to go take 50 snaps, but maybe they're ready to go out there and take 15 snaps. And I would just say we've had more and more guys over the last several weeks show us that they are ready and that they have earned those snaps and they're ready to go perform and help this team win. And some of it's just young guys growing up and understanding that they got to practice at elite level every day, and they got to give their coaches and players confidence to put them out there. Some of it is this COVID year that we've dealt with and what all these guys have missed. A number of our young players were ones that did get hit or with either COVID or contact tracing. So on top of it being new, a lot of those guys have missed anywhere in between 10 and 24 days on top of all the other stuff. And so it's, that makes it, so a little bit difficult to catch up. And, but I've been excited about several of our young guys, especially defensively, because they're going to, we've got some some real talent there, and they're starting to get to the point where they can help this team now win football games.
Thanks, Lincoln.
James Hale and then Jenny Carlson.
Lincoln, you guys are a national recruiting school, and you do that as well as anybody in the country. You're as good a recruiting school as anybody. But, the in-state guys you get this year, they're having a big impact, the in-state guys that you have on your football team, and they're playing really, really well. Talk about the impact and what some of these guys are doing for you that are in-state players that are playing, looks like in November, like your team usually does, are playing some great football.
Yeah, no, it's been critical. It's impossible, but I think it's hard to have a great college football program if you don't have some really, really strong players in your state, and you're able to keep them home and guys are able, and not just keep them home just because they're in-state guy, but because you would have went and recruited that guy, no matter where he was at. And the one bonus is he happened to grow up going to OU games and watching OU, and family, parents went to OU, and all those great things that come with it. So no, it's been huge. Obviously Isaiah has been talked a lot about. Of course, I think Trey Brown has really stepped up for us here, kind of from the Texas game on. I think he's, has really done some nice things for us, played some really, really solid ball. Obviously, Creed, has been a really good leader for us offensively. Marcus Majors had some really nice moments offensively. I'm probably leaving some guys out, but it's Pat Fields, has had another very steady year for us at the safety position. So no, it's been good. It's important. And the football in this state, I think, even in the few short years I've been here, I know I've said this many times, but I just see it keep getting better and better. And I feel like there's more and more prospects and more, OU type guys, and which is always a great thing.
Thanks, Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Jenny Carlson and then Brandon Drum.
Hey, Lincoln, I want to ask you an on-field question, but non-X's and O's, if you will. You guys have worn the alternative jerseys once already this year. We've kind of started to see them about twice a year. I'm just kind of curious what your process is for picking games, when to wear those, and if I know that the program's had kind of that same alternative look for a while. Has there been any talk with Nike about maybe a reboot or a redo at some point?
Yeah, no, it's normally something we start at the beginning of the season and before the season starts, and sit down with with administration and with our equipment staff and look at our games, look at our schedule, and we've normally mapped out a home and away game to be able to wear the alternative ones, and then we've had the rare, maybe, I don't know, I guess the Texas Big 12 championship game was maybe the only one that we just said, nah, we're going to just made a decision on the run and said we were going to do it. So other than that, I would say they've been pretty scheduled. Yeah, and as far as talks for new ones, we have, we're always kind of investigating that. There's some things in the entire sports equipment world, like everything else in the world, that have been put on hold with COVID. Honestly, there's some things that we ordered, not anything I would say that was like a necessity to have to be able to play, but we're still missing some things that we ordered for this team this year, as are a lot of teams across the country. So I think that's put a hold on a lot of it. And I'm not saying we had a jersey imminent that was showing up, but we constantly have discussions about, if we were to evolve and if we were to do something a little bit different, what would we do? And when would we do it? So that's kind of ongoing. And ours is, and it's a good way. I would rather have it like this and have 50 different combinations and not really have one that's like just truly who you are. Ours are so iconic that, you gotta, it's a double-edged sword. The other ones are cool and fun, but ours are so good. It's hard to get too far away from that.
When you do have conversations about a change, is a guy like Brad Camp at the front of that, or who all is in that conversation?
Yeah, Brad certainly is. Greg Tipton certainly is with his experience. Kenny Mossman being our sport administrator, of course, Joe. So, and sometimes it's just ideas that get kicked around, but yeah, you're always kind of looking for the next thing, and hopefully, here in the future we can land on something pretty good.
Cool. Thanks.
You got it.
Brandon Drum and then Keegan Renault.
Hey, Lincoln, during your time at Oklahoma, you've been around Eric Stryker as an edge rusher, and Obo Okoronkwo. Can you talk about Nick Benito and where he ranks up with those guys as an edge rusher and what that brings to your team, the defense, kind of the issues that it causes opposing offenses? And then on the other end, you're going to go up against, speaking of in-state guy, Trace Ford, who's similarly like Benito in that. Can you talk about him as well and what he causes problems for you're going to be going up against as well in a couple weeks?
Sure. Yeah. Nick's really grown. You could see, I wasn't here for Strike's early years. Strike was kind of just that undersized guy that had, such a motor and an intensity of getting to the passer. Great feel for the game. But did it from such a unique frame for a pass rusher. I mean, look at the guy and think that guy was an elite pass rusher at this level. You don't look at him and say that, but he certainly could do it. Obo had more prototypical strength and power combination. I think Obo, through his years, it was learning to become a complete player and do more than just rush the passer. And I think Nick has in some ways been similar. Nick has a little more length than Obo does. He's not quite as strong. That'll be a big, I think, deal for him as he continues to grow. As how strong can he get and really add that power to a game that already has, he's probably got as good a bend and acceleration, all of that. Being able to make himself skinny, body control, probably ranks pretty highly with those guys. But those guys, I would say, they continued to improve throughout their career, and every year was a little bit better, and they made themselves more rounded players. And Nick has started to do that. He certainly improved here in this season, but to be what he can be, he's going to have to continue to take weaknesses that he has and turn them into strengths and continue to build his body and his understanding. But he's doing a great job for us. He's an athletic guy and very, very tough to stop on the edge. And then Trace Ford, a tremendous player, has been able to do it early on in his career there at Oklahoma State and been, very consistent for them. They do a great job of moving him around, using him a lot of different ways. And you can tell he's really progressing as a player and giving a lot of offenses a lot of trouble.
Thank you.
For a few more here, let's go to Keegan Renault and then Kerry Murdoch.
Lincoln, a lot of the talk was about the run game early in the year and getting that going, but it seems like the pass protection since that Iowa State game has really ticked up. What can you attribute that to? Is it Creed? Is it Coach Bedenbaugh? Or what can you attribute that to?
Oh, just a little bit of everybody, honestly. I mean, it's kind of like the question about the pass rush on the defense. I mean, it takes it all. I mean, we're playing cleaner ball. We still, we had a couple of mistakes the other day that we hadn't honestly been making as much in the previous games. But other than that, we were pretty clean. And yeah, I just think, backs have been a little bit better in it. We've been able to win our one-on-ones and be on the same page more pass pro-wise. I think Spencer's, getting a better feel for what we're doing and when we need to get the ball out, when we can hang on to it a little bit and let things develop. So, yeah, I don't know that it's like one area or there was just like one glaring weakness. I just think it was everybody, taking the steps they needed to take and everybody playing a little bit cleaner and being on the same page more and more. And we've continued to progress that way.
Does that go hand in hand with Spencer's development the last 3 to 4 weeks as well?
In some ways, I mean, it helps. I mean, no doubt. I mean, obviously being able to protect those guys and let them be comfortable is a important deal and one of the biggest jobs of an offensive line and backs and whoever else is involved in the protection. So, it has certainly helped. And then his progression has helped the protection too. So it certainly goes both ways.
Thanks,
Murdoch and Blevins.
Lincoln, I know, this year of all years had to be the worst time for somebody to suffer an injury, when school was shut down. I'm curious, you talked really glowingly about Jaden Hazelwood from the beginning. What did you kind of learn about his character? What did that teach you and maybe players around him to be able to go through that rehab process when he had to and that he came back this quickly?
It was impressive, and I mean, I think that's how we all get judged. Is when things don't go our way, how do we handle it? And you got a guy that's highly recruited and a good football player, and comes in here and has a good a really good freshman year, and things kind of set up to really take off, and all of a sudden something as crazy as what happened to Jaden happens, and you do get a chance to. It's a test. I mean, that's maybe the best way to explain it. I mean, it's a test, and you either respond or you pout, and he certainly did. And along the way, not just getting himself ready, but continuing to stay very engaged with our team and still being a really positive member of the team, bringing energy, insight, studying. I mean, that's why he's been ready to play, or why he's ready to play 6 months after getting hurt. I mean, that's a lot of guys aren't, even if a guy is physically maybe busted his tail in the weight room and rehab and all that, but maybe mentally he didn't quite prepare like a guy that's getting ready to play a game. Where I think Jaden has done a good job of both, and giving himself to not only be ready to play some, but also contribute here.
Thanks, Lincoln.
Yeah, Lincoln, from the outside. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
sorry. That last one will go to Parker Thune.
Yeah. Hey, Lincoln, from the outside, it appears there have been more dropped or catchable balls, maybe particularly potential touchdown plays. I'm wondering if that is accurate and what you do about it, the importance of finishing plays and what can be done.
I think it's fair. I do think it's fair. I think we've had a few more drops this year than we've had in previous years. And so, no, it's kind of comes down to each individual guy, and you try, if you can find a pattern, then you address it, whether it's sometimes guys are too amped up and need to be relaxed. Sometimes it's focus. Sometimes it's something physical. Sometimes it's something technical. So I think you get to the root of the problem. I mean, the worst way to coach a guy is just when he drops one, is tell him to catch it. I mean, that doesn't help a whole lot. Now, guys are gonna drop one from time to time. That happens. And so, I think our deal is we don't make any more or any less of what it is. If a guy drops one, we try to, if there's an issue that we see with it, we'll address it. But obviously, guys only get so many opportunities, and we need them to make them. And our guys, we have dropped a few more, especially in the end zone, than we need to. We've also made some tremendous plays on the ball too. And so, but we certainly want to make all the routine ones, and then we want to make a good percentage of the ones that maybe we shouldn't make too. And so we're going to keep working it, but we'll certainly need to make those plays here down the stretch.
Thanks, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
And last one, Parker Thune.
Coach, I know it didn't really affect the outcome of the game on Saturday, but just curious, how fun was it for you to see Chandler Morris get his first career touchdown on that scramble in the fourth quarter?
Yeah, no, it was. It was fun. It was fun to get a lot of those guys in there. Chandler wanted to score. He missed Mikey, threw Mikey a bad ball in the first one. It was good to see him rebound and get that one in there. So he's been doing a nice job behind the scenes. Get some good work with our scout team, and still getting a lot of good reps, with us and developing as a player. And, you see some of his mobility and skill set that's exciting for him and for us in the future. So it was, there was a number of guys, that got in and did some really nice things that was great to see.